I am 29 years old, and I just destroyed my sister's life in front of 200 people at our father's funeral. Some people think I'm a monster for what I did. Others think she got exactly what she deserved. This is the story of how my perfect, beloved sister faked terminal cancer to manipulate our dying father into changing his will, and how I made sure everyone knew the truth. My name is Rachel. I have an older sister named Victoria who is 33. Growing up, Victoria was everything I wasn't. Beautiful, charismatic, effortlessly successful at everything she tried. She was valedictorian in high school, got a full scholarship to Yale, married a successful lawyer, and had 2 adorable kids. Meanwhile, I struggled through community college, worked as a dental hygienist, and my longest relationship lasted 8 months. Our parents, especially our dad, absolutely worshipped Victoria. Every family gathering was about her accomplishments. Every conversation somehow circled back to how proud Dad was of her. I got used to being the invisible daughter, the backup child, the one who existed to make Victoria look even better by comparison. Our dad, Thomas, built a successful chain of hardware stores across Oregon. 6 locations, worth about $4 million total. He'd always told both of us that when he retired, he'd split everything 50-50. Victoria would get half, I'd get half. It seemed fair. Even if Victoria clearly didn't need the money as much as I did with her lawyer husband and their massive house in Portland. 2 years ago, Dad was diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer. The doctors gave him 6 months to a year. It was devastating for all of us, but especially hard on Dad because he'd always been so strong and independent. Watching him deteriorate was the worst thing I've ever experienced. About 3 months into his diagnosis, Victoria made an announcement at a family dinner. She had breast cancer. Stage 3. She'd found a lump, got it checked, and the biopsy came back positive. She was starting chemotherapy immediately. The timing seemed suspicious to me. Dad gets terminal cancer, and suddenly Victoria has cancer too? But I felt horrible for even thinking it. What kind of monster suspects someone of faking cancer? So I pushed those thoughts away and tried to be supportive. Victoria started showing up to family dinners wearing headscarves. She talked about how awful chemo was making her feel. She posted on Facebook about her brave cancer journey. She even started a blog called Fighting Together about her and Dad battling cancer side by side. Everyone praised her courage. Dad was so proud of how strong she was being. Meanwhile, I was the one actually taking care of Dad. I moved in with him to help with daily tasks. I drove him to appointments. I held his hand during the bad nights. Victoria would visit once a week, usually with a camera to document their cancer warrior bonding time for her social media. I started noticing things that didn't add up. Victoria's hair wasn't falling out. She just wore scarves for photos. She never looked sick. She never lost weight. When I asked about her treatment schedule, her answers were always vague. Oh, I have a wonderful oncology team handling everything. But she never mentioned doctor names, hospital names, nothing specific. One day, I was at Victoria's house dropping off some of Dad's old photo albums she'd wanted. Her husband, Derek, wasn't home. Her kids were at school. I needed to use the bathroom, and that's when I found her secret. In the bathroom cabinet, behind some towels, there were wigs. Multiple wigs. But here's the thing. They were wigs of her normal hairstyle. Not wigs to cover hair loss. Wigs to wear when she took off her headscarves. There were also bottles of makeup labeled Pallor Effect and Illness Simulation. I stood there staring at the stuff, and everything clicked into place. My sister was faking cancer. I felt sick to my stomach. But I needed proof before I could accuse her of something so horrible. So I started paying closer attention. I followed her one day when she said she had a chemo appointment. She went to a spa. Another time, she posted about feeling weak after treatment, but I'd seen her at the gym that morning looking perfectly healthy. The breaking point came 6 months ago. Dad called me and Victoria to his lawyer's office. He decided to update his will. He sat us both down, looking frail and tired, and explained his decision. Victoria, you're facing your own battle with cancer. You have medical bills, uncertainty about your future, and 2 children to think about. Rachel, you're healthy and capable. So I've decided to leave the business and 75% of my estate to Victoria. Rachel, you'll get 25% and some personal items. I felt like I'd been slapped. 75%? Because she had fake cancer? I looked at Victoria, and I swear I saw the smallest smirk on her face before she put on her sad, grateful expression and hugged Dad, thanking him through fake tears. I wanted to scream. I wanted to tell Dad right then that she was lying. But I had no solid proof yet, just suspicions and some wigs. If I accused her without evidence and I was wrong, I'd destroy what little relationship Dad and I had left. So I stayed quiet and started planning. I hired a private investigator. It cost me $3,000 I really couldn't afford, but I needed the truth. The investigator followed Victoria for 2 weeks. The report he gave me was damning. Victoria had never had cancer. She'd never been to an oncologist. She'd never had chemotherapy. She'd been going to regular doctor appointments for routine checkups and telling our family they were cancer treatments. The investigator even found the receipt for the illness simulation makeup from a theatrical supply store. She'd been literally painting herself to look sick for photos and family visits. I had everything I needed. But Dad died before I could tell him. 3 weeks after changing his will, his condition rapidly declined. He passed away at home with me holding his hand. Victoria showed up 20 minutes later, perfectly timed for the dramatic grieving daughter photos. The funeral was planned for the following Saturday. It was going to be huge. Dad was well known in the community, a successful businessman, beloved by everyone. The service was at the largest church in town, with a reception afterward at a local event center. I made a decision. I was going to expose Victoria at the funeral. Some people told me later that it was cruel, that I should have waited. But I was so angry. Angry that she'd manipulated our dying father. Angry that she'd stolen my inheritance with lies. Angry that she was going to get away with it while playing the role of the grieving, cancer-stricken daughter. The funeral service was beautiful. People gave speeches about Dad's life, his generosity, his business success. Then came the family eulogies. Victoria went first. She got up to the podium, wearing a black dress and a headscarf, looking pale with her stage makeup. She gave this heartbreaking speech about losing her father while fighting her own battle with cancer. About how Dad inspired her to keep fighting. About their special bond as cancer warriors. There wasn't a dry eye in the church. People were sobbing. I watched her performance and I felt nothing but cold rage. Then it was my turn. I walked up to the podium with a folder in my hand. I'd prepared a slideshow. I started normally, talking about Dad, sharing some memories. Then I said something that made everyone pay attention. My father was a man who valued honesty above everything. He always told us that integrity was the foundation of character. So I think it's important, on this day, to honor his memory with complete honesty. I clicked to the next slide. It was a photo of Victoria from her social media, wearing a headscarf, with the caption "Chemo Day, Staying Strong." My sister Victoria has been very public about her cancer diagnosis. She's shared her journey with thousands of people online. She's received an outpouring of support, donations to her treatment fund, and even convinced our father to restructure his will to provide for her medical needs. Victoria's face went white. Real white, not makeup white. She started to stand up, but her husband put his hand on her arm. I clicked to the next slide. It was the private investigator's report, blown up large enough for people in the back to see the header. Subject Victoria Chen, cancer diagnosis investigation, negative. The truth is, Victoria doesn't have cancer. She's never had cancer. This is a report from a private investigator who followed her for 2 weeks. She's been faking her illness for almost 2 years. The church erupted in gasps and whispers. Victoria stood up and screamed, "You're lying. This is insane." I clicked through more slides. Photos of Victoria at the gym on days she claimed to be too weak from chemo. Receipts from the theatrical makeup store. Screenshots of her real medical records that the investigator had obtained, showing routine checkups with no cancer diagnosis. Victoria manipulated our dying father into changing his will. She used a fake cancer diagnosis to steal 75% of his estate. She let him die believing his daughter was sick, made him spend his final months worrying about her, all for money. Victoria's husband stood up and grabbed her arm, pulling her toward the exit. She was crying, screaming that I was a liar, that I was jealous. But everyone had seen the evidence on the screen. People were pulling out their phones, taking pictures of the slides. The funeral completely fell apart after that. Half the people left in shock. The other half stayed to gossip. The reception was canceled. The pastor looked horrified. And I stood at that podium, watching my sister's life implode in real time. The aftermath was nuclear. Victoria's husband filed for divorce within a week. Her friends abandoned her. She was forced to return all the donations people had given her for medical expenses, which totaled almost $40,000. She was investigated for fraud, though she ultimately wasn't charged because technically asking for donations isn't illegal if people give voluntarily. The will was contested. My lawyer argued that it had been obtained through fraud and manipulation. Victoria's lawyer tried to fight it, but the evidence was overwhelming. After 3 months of legal battles, the judge ruled that the will should be voided and Dad's previous will, which split everything 50-50, would stand. I got my half of the inheritance. Victoria got her half too, but she'd already spent a fortune on lawyers and paying back donations. Her reputation was destroyed. She moved to California, and I haven't spoken to her since the funeral. My extended family is split. Some think I did the right thing. Others think I'm cruel for exposing her at the funeral instead of handling it privately. My aunt literally called me evil for desecrating Dad's funeral with family drama. But here's how I see it. Victoria desecrated Dad's final months by lying to him. She made him change his will based on fake sympathy. She stole from me, manipulated everyone, and was going to walk away with millions while playing the victim. The funeral was the one moment when everyone who mattered was in one room, when the truth would have maximum impact. Was it dramatic? Yes. Was it harsh? Absolutely. But it was also the only way to make sure she faced consequences. I think about Dad a lot. I wonder if he would have been proud of me for exposing the truth, or disappointed that I caused such a scene at his funeral. I like to think he'd understand. He always valued honesty, even when it was uncomfortable. Victoria destroyed our relationship the moment she decided to fake cancer for inheritance money. She calculated that exploiting our dying father's love was worth whatever consequences might come. She just didn't expect me to actually fight back. People ask me if I regret it. The honest answer is no. Not even a little bit. Victoria played a sick, twisted game and lost. She bet that family loyalty and social pressure would keep me quiet. She was wrong. Sometimes the right thing to do isn't the polite thing. Sometimes justice is messy and uncomfortable. And sometimes, the only way to honor someone's memory is to make sure the truth comes out, no matter who it hurts. Victoria is living in San Diego now, working some corporate job under her maiden name. We'll never speak again. And, honestly, that's fine with me. She's not my sister anymore. The sister I grew up with wouldn't have done what she did. The money didn't make me happy. Winning the legal battle didn't feel as good as I thought it would. But knowing that Dad's true wishes were honored, that she didn't get away with her scheme, that gives me peace. I exposed my sister at our father's funeral. And I'd do it again.